This is part one of my debate with ReviewTechUSA versus the BBC, which is me. And he will be represented by the evil computer from the Brave Little Toaster, and I'll be represented by Lewis.
Pills here!
Now, just like the last debate, all I've done is gone back through the debate and taken out all the pauses so you guys will get a nice streamlined debate with all the real content still intact. And I will provide the original debate file so you guys can check for yourselves. And of course there's the witty visual aid that I have applied to this video. So I'm going to get out of your way now and start this thing. But let's all remember that Richard here, Mr. ReviewTechUSA, is a pretty cool guy. And you should probably check out his channel after you watch the end of the debate. I'll see you guys later. Enjoy.
I'm ready. You ready?
We'll start over. The first thing I'm going to say is that I'm not in Black Bond, listen to me. Blackbuster critic, we're not looking to sit here to crucify each other. We're not going to sit here and start calling each other names and all that shit, because that's not a debate then. That's,
I know.
15-year-old female bullshit. And that's not what we're looking to do. Well, basically what we're saying is that what we're going to do is state our cases. I had my diarrhea of the mouth last night in my video, so I'll let him start first. What I will say is this, and this is not me trying to pat myself in the back, just so people know, I have a PC that I do game on. I will state my hardware, not looking for a badge of honor, just so people know that I can play current gen games so I understand what I'm talking about. AMD Phenom 2, 3.5 gigahertz, and I have a ATI Radeon 5830. So I can play current games, and I'm downloading friggin' one from Steam right now as we speak. And Steam gives me a mild erection, so I'll let you have the post first, or the stand, or the soapbox, or whatever the hell you want to call it, and then we'll go from there.
What do you want me to talk about first?
State the case of why, PC gaming is superior for everybody.
It's cheaper.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. How is that?
You spend $300, $400 on a gaming PC, and all the money you save buying the PC games all comes back around. Like Dead Rising 2, $39.99 on the PC, while on the consoles it's $59.99. And in other areas of the world it's even more expensive than that, like in Australia.
Yeah, due to inflation. Agreed. But the thing about it is, what PC and what specifications are you talking about that you can get for about $300, $400? I'm asking out of interest. I'm not, asking rhetorically.
Most games that come out today have recommended settings for GT 8800s, and those were about 3 years ago. So even people with PCs even 4 years ago can still run these games. Even games like Crysis can run on single core CPUs.
I had a Pentium 4 hyper-threading, man, with a 6800 Ultra, and it ran, but it was a slideshow. And that in 2005 was a high-end HP PC, and I mean, dual cores, the first ones that came out were the Intel Pentiums, dual cores, and those came out in early 2006.
Just a second. HP?
Yeah, HP.
Alright, go ahead.
At the time, listen, hold on. HP, 3 gigahertz, Pentium 4 with hyperthreading. That was close to, if not the top what you could get back in '05, okay? And a 6800 Ultra card, NVIDIA. And HPs have ASUS motherboards on them, and it had 2 gigs of RAM back then, which was a lot.
Yeah, and 2 gigs of RAM is basically all you really need for games of today as well. And this is 2005.
But it ran, I was getting like 15 frames a second on the lowest settings with Crysis. So I don't really know what, you're not playing Crysis. You're able to put the disc in and load it. A lot of times when I look at the minimum settings on games, now the minimum settings is the 8800 GT. And minimum settings, you well know and I know, is not They say it's playable, but it's not.
Well,
And there's a lot of times at the minimum settings.
that
When you play
depends
a
on the
game,
person. Some people can play at that. I wouldn't, but that can't go for everybody.
dude, who would play a game playing when the game plays at like 20 frames per second? It looks like a slideshow.
On my old
feel
PC, I played at
like,
20.
It's like watching porn on AOL with dial-up back in like 1996.
I'm just saying, we can't speak for everybody. What's good for us might not be the same for them as far as frames per second.
And everyone out there, consoles, the games are always should run at a minimum. Sometimes they go right down to 28. The average frame rate for consoles is 30 frames per second.
Yeah, some PS3 games go down to 24 frames. That's pretty bad.
Well, Bayonetta is a perfect example of that. Yeah. Well, yeah, they 90. Okay, let me take that back then. 90% of games for consoles, if not higher, should run and do run at 30 frames per second. That's not true.
Yeah,
It's not a trash port on the PS3. They patched it. It's still not as good as the 360 one, but that's not what we're here for.
Yeah, that's something that's completely different.
Yeah, we would be here till if we would start talking about all the nitpicking shit between all the hardware, we would be here till 6 a.m. Now, pretty much the other thing too is my biggest thing is this. Okay, there's a lot of people I know personally in my life that if they jerk off to video games, like it's kind of almost creepy.
Right.
And like I have a friend, Sean, last name will be out of it because I think some people here may know him. Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, for like 5 months he played it 11 hours a day. Okay.
Yeah.
And what happens is now here's a game that on the PC is you could run it at native high definition resolutions, because if anyone out there doesn't know, on the consoles it's sub HD. They upscale it to 720p.
Yeah,
okay?
Sucks.
But because he doesn't want to, he's actually a technician too, because he doesn't want to deal with the BS. That doesn't always happen, but does happen with PCs. And I have a story first, but then I'll shut up because I know I'm talking a lot right now. He plays it on a console. He bought it on the console. He would not buy it on the PC. I actually tried to convince him of it, and he said, if you try to say it to me, I'll smack you across the head. That's the only one he got. He has a 360. He has kind of, I guess you could say he has a gaming PC, but he doesn't want to deal with it. And that's the thing, is that the general public,
what do you mean by
even me?
What do you mean by kinda? What do you mean by kinda has a gaming PC?
He has a 1 gig 8600 GT in there, and he has a quad core processor. But 8600 GT, you can't say is I mean, that was when I got it back in 07. That thing was a entry level card.
Well, the minimum system requirements for Modern Warfare 2 is 6600 DT.
Agreed. But he didn't want to deal with it. Well, here's the thing: Modern Warfare 2. The other thing about it too was the big deal was the servers. He didn't want to deal with that. You were going through the Steam servers, and a lot of people were pissed at that, and so was he.
Well, then use third-party servers.
But once again, though, man, you're saying extra things that people don't want to fucking deal with. Even people that are, excuse my language, anyone there was, because I know people don't want me to swear. When you put a game in your 360, even the PS3, all right, a lot of people shit on the internet experience or the gaming experience on the PS3. I could give a crap about cross-game chat, but once again, we'll go into a whole other debate about that. You put the game in, and in most cases, at least from what I played, I don't have a problem with it. I have pretty good luck on the PC too, but a lot of people don't want to think. That's the reason why consoles have always outdone most of the time. As of recently, I should say more so. In the past 5 to 7 years.
So consoles are for people who don't want to create their own experiences. Instead, they want to be lazy and just have what the corporations throw at them.
That's not. You can't say that, man.
You said people don't. You said people don't want to think. If he doesn't want to just use a third-party server, which all you have to do is basically copy and paste into a text file. All you have to do is Google it, third-party server, Modern Warfare PC. It's not difficult. It takes 2 seconds.
I understand that, but you have to understand, you know, even that people want to plug. It's not even that they want to get fed; they want the experience to be as smooth as possible. Let me give you an example outside of Modern Warfare.
Wait a minute. They want a smooth game, but they want to play a Modern Warfare game, a Call of Duty game on the consoles.
Yeah.
And they want to play online, and they want it to be smooth.
They want it to be smooth. Yeah. now Black Ops. Now Black Ops on the PS3 is having issues, but that's Treyarch. But
there was issues on all the platforms.
I play Black Ops on the 360 all the time. It's fine.
There was issues all across the board. I've seen all the articles.
Maybe I haven't played enough, but I have played quite a bit of it, and I haven't had a problem with it. But here is another example of why PC gaming pisses me off. I have a love-hate relationship with it, and that was really the key to this debate. Now, you know, you worked in retail, and unfortunately I had a temporary job for the past few months where I worked in retail.
Yeah.
Opening up a game, any game, if you open up software, okay, you can't bring it back. If you open up a game and say, yeah, I don't like it, you'll get the shit slapped out of you by customer service there. That's just the way it goes because they don't want people pirating shit.
Yeah.
So I bought Batman Arkham Asylum, okay? Back then I had XP, which is, who cares? It was a DirectX 9 game. DirectX 9, I think it was DirectX 10. I'm not sure. Whatever. There was a known issue with it when I went home, and there was no way around it, that you couldn't play Arkham Asylum because there was an issue with Windows Live with Windows XP. They let me bring it back because the issue was so known. Now, do those issues happen on gaming consoles? Sometimes, but it's much fewer and farther between. They let me bring the game back open. That's how known the issue was. And that's the thing with PCs that drives me nuts, man, is that it's getting less often, but there's a lot of times, like the Quake. I remember under your video I mentioned Quake, and you're like, dude, Jesus Christ, it's a game from 2000.
Yeah.
It's not that my hardware obviously can't handle it, but what happened is that, it's just not compatible with it. And it should be. Like, okay, yes, crappy hardware for the 360 aside, they just had Quake.
Just a second, bro, just a second. Okay, you're saying those Quake games are compatible with your computer, but the first Quake game online runs live, Quake Live runs in a browser.
It ain't working. I downloaded them through Steam, and I actually contacted support thinking I was going nuts. The only one that'll work is Quake 1, because I got the whole pack, because I was like, oh, sweet. Like, Quake is honestly the only game I like from id. I like Doom too, but I could live without it. The whole pack, Quake 1 runs. I actually tried older drivers to see, too, so I always keep older drivers, because even with NVIDIA cards, you have to have an extra set of drivers around, because sometimes games run better with older drivers. Nothing. After Quake 1, which runs buggy, nothing. Now, 360's hardware being shit aside, they came out with Quake 3, Arena, and it actually has a new single-player thing. And I understand the reliability issues you're going to mention, any 360 with a hard drive will run that. Because even with the revisions of the hardware, all the console's capabilities are the same. For games, they're the same.
So you can play Halo Reach campaign co-op with a 4 gig Xbox 360S model.
No, you can't. But that's the hard drive for them is a peripheral. It's not an upgrade. Hard drive, even for a PC, you can technically say is a peripheral, not an upgrade. Because the GPU, and you made a point that kind of had me stumble a little bit, the GPU and CPU in both the PS3 360, they're the same. There are revisions, they may make them cooler and smaller. They've done it since the beginning of time. Even the Intellivision had a revision because they wanted to save money on it.
Yes, but no platform had problems as much as the Xbox 360 before. And these changes were made specifically to increase reliability.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they marketed it. That's what they told everyone. Get the new Falcon chip. you'll have less problems with ROD. The new Jasper chip makes everything better. They even, in 2008, they switched out the drive in the 360 for another one to attempt to fix the disc scratching problem. But that still didn't help because they took out the little rubber stoppers around the lens to keep the disc from hitting the lens.
But that's you're talking the stupidity of one hardware development company. That's not happening with the PS3, and that's not happening with the Wii.
My point I was making against Mike's point is that they had hardware changes. And that's why he says that their lifespan is short, the PC lifespan. And I said, well, they changed the hard drives and they changed everything else in the PS3 and 360. All these things is basically just gimped PCs. That's it. You have to buy things for them. Maybe not the PS3 as much as other ones, but if you want the experience that you can get on a PC, you have to spend the money and buy separate parts.
Like separate parts? Like you got to do the same. Like for example, man, like I had an 08, an 8800 GT with a dual core processor, and I could tell you right now the experience isn't the same. And I wasn't running at max settings. The games now, you know, Just Cause 2 is a perfect example. Like it makes my 5830 choke, and I'm still not at max. I wouldn't have to. Those are upgrades. You're still saying, if you have a launch PS3, you are running, Castlevania Lords of Shadow at the same frame rate that you're running it now. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. My only point is that these consoles have hardware changes just as much as, PCs. But maybe the PS3 does have where you can play the same games, even though newer PS3s you don't have any backwards compatibility. But for the Xbox 360, you won't have the same experience all the way across the Xbox 360s. There's some Xbox 360s as to where you can't install your second disc to Forza 3. You can't install your games. You can't even download a single game from Xbox Live.
I had a launch 360 up to a year ago, and I was I was fine. How? If I have a hard drive, I actually on my 360 now, because I don't have a hard drive for it, I installed the Forza disc to an 8 gig flash drive. Why? I understand there's a bug with Halo Reach.
Can you install your games to a flash drive from Xbox Live?
Yeah. I have what the hell is it? Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
An official Xbox 360 flash drive, or one that you have to format?
One I had to format.
One that you had to buy, or one that you already had?
One that I already had.
So you had to buy a third-party piece of hardware in order to extend the experience on your console.
Yeah, but then you have to do the same thing for the PC.
Exactly.
No, man. You're trying to compare, buying a $150 or $200 processor, or even a $90 to $100 video card to
games today can run on single cores. You don't have to upgrade your processor every 2 or 3 years, like you said.
Really? How? How do you not have to upgrade your processor every 2 to 3 years? How? How am I
minimum requirements for
my original AMD dual core? How would I run
games today? Have a minimum requirement of single core, maybe like 3 gigahertz or something like that. I've seen it. Crysis can run on single cores. Single cores is like 2005, 2004. We're talking Pentium 4s here. Now,
dude,
everyone...
I had it running on a Pentium 4 with hyper-threading, so in theory it was pseudo-dual channel, and that's all there was in 2005. 2006, I'm actually pretty damn positive, was the first dual-core processor from Intel, and that was the Pentium dual-core.
And your only problem was that it didn't run the way you wanted to. You were talking 15 frames per second, 20 frames per second.
That was wishful thinking, yeah.
And, people play it at those frame rates.
That's a horrible gaming experience. Why would you want to do that?
People still do it.
No way.
They
man.
don't have to upgrade.
It's people still, people may do
They
it.
don't
Like, oh, wow,
have
I
to
have this old piece
upgrade.
of
That's the
fucking
point.
shit.
They don't have to upgrade. That's the point.
Oh, that you're going on a technicality though, man. That's like saying
That's just the fact. That's just the fact of the matter. That's the fact of the matter. They don't have to upgrade.
I could run an hour at the gym that I shouldn't lose weight. You know what I'm saying? Come on.
That's the fact of the matter. They don't have to upgrade. It is their choice.
I don't agree at all.
It is their choice. They have the option to upgrade.
Okay. Hey, I don't agree at all, and I think a lot of people here who would play a game at 12 frames per second and play the entire game. Everyone typing right there. Who would play the entire
Castlevania, okay, I've heard people talking about Castlevania goes down to 15 frames per second on the consoles.
Yeah, for like a second. I played through the whole game. It goes like, there's like 2 scenes where like it's like maybe 5 to 10 seconds. Crisis, the entire game was like that. And the textures look like something on Nintendo 64. Who would want to play that? It's not playable. Like you aim, like say you want to aim down your sights. When I had it on the Pentium 4, it was like 2 frames a second.
2 frames per second aiming down your sights.
Yeah. Literally. And I'm not exaggerating
If your game is running at 2 frames per second, you are on a very, very old piece of hardware. I mean, heck, you can't even run the Quake games. You can't even run the Quake games, and you want to talk about running Crysis at 2 frames per second.
Yeah, on my old Pentium 4 hyper-threading with a 6800 Ultra in it, yes. And the rest of the game was, say when you got out of the sights, I don't know, whatever effect they had, I think it was the blur effect they had, where, then when you went back out, it would go back up to like 12 to 15.
You can't run.
That's not a gaming experience. Let me ask you right now, okay?
There's obviously something you did wrong. If you couldn't run,
when I had all the patches for it, and I had a Pentium 4, what could I have done wrong?
You had all the minimum requirements. You had all the minimum requirements.
Minimum requirements. It ran.
The minimum requirements. The minimum requirements for Crysis run the game on medium.
No.
Yes, they run on medium.
Well, that was my hardware. And I'm being truthful about my hardware. That was my hardware for that. And the patches were installed, even though that game is still buggy as shit with the patches.
So it's your own fault that you didn't have the correct hardware.
No, it's not. Because in theory, Crysis says that you run on a single core Pentium 4 with hyperthreading. Has to have hyperthreading. Can't just be a Pentium 4.
And the minimum requirements run it on medium. That's from their official site. That's from InCrysis.com, I believe it is. Let me look it up. Minimum requirements.
Persistent Thug, I still am a fan of PC gaming. That's not where I'm going with this. I'm downloading a game, like I said, on Steam. Well, it's paused because it wouldn't work with this.
Let's see, recommended 2 gigabytes of RAM. You had that, didn't you? Recommended GT 8800.
You know, though.
Let's see.
You know. No, I'm not getting mad at all, man. This is a debate, dude.
Yeah, minimum system requirements, single core, 2.8 gigahertz or faster. Memory, 1 gigabyte of RAM on XP or 1.5.
So I was above on that.
Or 1.5 on Vista. A video card that has 256 megabytes of memory. And DirectX 9 and 12 gigabytes of on your hard drive.
Mm-hmm. And I was there. And I met all those.
But you were running.
So
you had the minimum requirements, and you were running 2 frames per second.
Of course, I just said before, and when I was aiming down the sights, the game ran between 12 and 15 for the rest of it. I did say that before too.
At the time, you had like a 6800 or something, right?
Yep. 256 was on there.
That sounds like a self-fail to me. The game came with requirements. It seems that you met the requirements, but there's probably something you're not telling us about your old PC. And you upgrade this PC, right? This is the PC you're still using today?
No, that's another HP. The one I'm using today is a build that I originally got from 2007.
Your HP is the one that didn't. Your HP computer didn't run Crysis.
Mine now is a home build.
Okay. An HP product, yeah. An HP computer.
Why would I be lying about the Crysis thing? What the hell would it matter? I'm not saying it to you. I'm saying it to someone in the text. There's also many other times too that minimum requirements, there's so many variables, there may be compatibility issues with your motherboard.
Even
People
the recommended requirements are like 4 or 5 years ago. Core 2 Duo, 2.2 gigahertz, 2 gigabytes of RAM, GTS 8800.
Okay. Repeat the beginning of that because I didn't hear it.
Intel Core 2 Duo, 2.2 gigahertz.
What specs are you reading for though? What is the requirement for?
That's the recommended requirements.
Mm-hmm.
And it plays the game 30 frames per second on very high.
Now flip it around now when Crysis was meant to be really on medium or high. When I had an AMD dual core, this was the first generation of AMD dual cores, and I had an 8800 GT. I could get between the only thing I didn't have maxed out was anti-aliasing. I had between 25 and 30 frames per second with everything else maxed out. At 720p, but everything else was maxed out. So you can't always go by, minimum or required or recommended specs, because technically that was actually running better than it should have with everything on very high.
I just don't understand how you couldn't run this game. I heard your specifications of your PC, and it just doesn't make sense.
Dude, Crysis, even on my machine now, still, even at 720p, I can't get anti-aliasing all the way up. I'm like at 2x or 4x. And I'm still at like 28 or 30 frames per second at 720p. Crysis is a fucking beast,
you
man.
like the consoles, right? You should be used to 2x and 4x.
I am used to 2x and 4x. But I'm saying what I'm saying is that game, if it's making my hardware sweat now, which is a billion times more powerful than what I was using in the HP, how is it not believable that when I was looking down the sites, it would drop down a ridiculous amount to a virtually still frame rate?
It just doesn't make sense. I'm hearing what you're saying, but it just doesn't make sense. There's something wrong with your hardware. You can't run Quake, but you're talking about
two different sets of hardware, though. That doesn't. No. That's two different sets of hardware. The HP is something with Crysis, and this is.
You said it's making your current PC choke.
What? Crysis is making my current PC choke? Yeah, when I have everything set through the roof, yeah. And there's nothing wrong with my hardware.
Are you running on very high?
I'm running it on very high. Everything through the roof except for anti-aliasing is at like 4x. 2x or 4x, like I said before.
But you couldn't run it on medium, and you had a PC before that met the requirements.
Yes. Indeed I did.
This is going around in circles. I think we should...
It is definitely going around in circles.
Yes.
I don't understand. I mean, I'm sure you've dealt with this before, man, where you meet the minimum requirements. I mean, this isn't the first time with the system either, and I'm sure it's not the first time with you. I guess you're trying to catch me in a lie, but that's cool.
You do sound like Seth Rogen.
I know, I don't even know who the fuck Seth Rogen is, and I've been hearing that ever since I made a YouTube video. I swear to God.